it's so lovely to see such a positive exchange on the streets, and as you say, Dan, the juxtaposition, the contrast with Starmer, who just marched in and marched out, was something to behold.
King Charles arrived in Southport for the first time after the massacre, and this was a very significant visit, given that we remember the last time one of our leaders was in Southport, and I'll show you the footage later, but Keir Starmer was very badly heckled. So what response was the monarch going to get during this visit today? Well, take a look at this. And then as he went to meet the public, some of them actually yelled out to him, "Thank you for coming." Watch. Now, you couldn't get a more stark contrast to what happened to Starmer when he showed up in Southport. Watch this.
How many more children are dying on our streets, Prime Minister? How many more children? How many more children, Prime Minister? Are we going to do something?
Time to change, Starmer.
Come on, it's needed. How many more children? Is it mine next? What's shameful? Bye-bye. You got your photos, off you go. Make a real change, Prime Minister. Make a real change! Our children! Go away!
I just found out my friend's 9-year-old daughter.
So, Angela Levin, great to have you. Look, I'm not comparing Charles to Starmer. Of course, they are very different figures in public consciousness. However, this was still a bit of a risky visit for the monarch today. He will be delighted with that reaction.
Well, I mean, I think you do see that you can be compassionate whatever job you've got. The fact that he was in and out in 1 minute and just take that time to put some flowers down is actually appalling. He didn't speak to anybody. You don't have to be a prime minister to actually show compassion. But the king is somebody who is very compassionate and he feels for it. He times it very well as well. Royals don't go straight away after there has been something terrible happening because they feel they get in the way and the police have to look after them or guard them rather than anything else. But he's waited his time. It's now calmed down slightly and he went. And the reception was wonderful because they do care. They do want, I mean, we do want our royals to help us in difficulty. We've seen it with the late Queen, and King Charles is the same, that you care about individuals and they are your subjects and you need to show that. And he does it very well. He seemed actually to be quite fit. He walked up the stairs very quickly. He looked quite well. And when somebody asked him, "How are you, sir?" he said, "I'm not too bad." So that's being careful. You know, not too bad is, but, you know, he obviously wasn't going to say, but he means well. And I think he did very well. And he's going to invite the 3 families whose daughters died to London and to the palace. And I think that's also a marvellous gesture because although you can't bring these children back and you can't ever get over the pain, that you can think that somebody very important is taking the trouble to help you. And you can see, you know, the palace, which you would never do that before. And Camilla is also very good at talking to people who've had terrible problems and they can feel some sort of comfort, which they very much deserve.
Yes, you're right. It's tomorrow, actually, that he's going to be meeting with the family members of the 3 young girls who tragically lost their lives after being killed in that barbaric manner. So that will happen, as you say, at the Palace. I believe some folk are also meeting Taylor Swift at her concert in London tonight, because, of course, the dance class was a Taylor Swift-themed class. Philip, what did you make of the reception that Charles got today and the contrast between his time in Southport and Starmer's time?
Well, I thought it was actually very moving. I was just watching the footage there, and I felt myself, get quite emotional about it. There's something about that connection between monarch and people, and we saw it. We just saw it there. We saw the essence of it. It's so lovely to see such a positive exchange on the streets, and as you say, Dan, the juxtaposition, the contrast with Starmer, who just marched in and marched out, was something to behold. Now, I've been thinking about this for quite a while, and we had a discussion on the New Culture Forum about what should the king do, and should there be a royal intervention of any kind. And I think they've got it just right. It's a gesture that's very personal, that's about individuals and that's about people. It wasn't. I was frightened that he was going to make a speech or something. It just seemed as though it was, as Angela says, perfectly timed, and everything about it. I was just proud of it, basically.
I agree.
Can I just say, the only thing he said that we could hear was, "Aren't these flowers wonderful? And it's so lovely to see them, and all the teddies." Oh, you do. I felt, really tearful on that.
Yeah.
But straight to the heart.
But I'm also proud of Charles for listening to advice, because this is why the late Queen Elizabeth II was so wonderful, right? But we do know, Angela, as Philip points out, he was considering giving a speech. I think that would have waded into a very thorny political area, especially after he criticised the Rwanda scheme. We know where he stands on the issue of immigration. Actually, this was pitch perfect. You don't need to say much. You need to be a unifying figure, and today he was.
Yeah. I think he was wonderful. And I think that he might have been in pain, he might have been exhausted, but it was nothing about him. He didn't start telling you about him. He just wanted to be close to his subjects. And for that, we're very grateful.
Yeah. And it does also show, doesn't it, Philip, that Starmer really got the tone wrong. He got the tone wrong because it wasn't just about the timing. It was the fact that he refused to speak to the citizens of the UK during that visit.
It was almost as though he was angry that it had happened, and he just wanted to be able to make political capital out of it. What can I do? Oh God, this has happened. What can I do? I know I'll have a go at the far right, and I'll create the far right so I can use them in future. I don't think I'm being unkind there.
Actually. Well, no, because Philip, sorry to interrupt, but part of my theory, and obviously we don't know this for sure, but my theory is that Starmer was so angry at the reception he got in Southport, it actually sparked part of his decision and his rationale behind deciding to go hard on the far right. Whereas I do not believe that the people who were heckling him in Southport were members of the so-called far right. One of them, Philip, we know for sure, was a best friend of someone whose 9-year-old was stabbed. So actually, it was locals who were just expressing genuine anger.
I think what we see in that footage, Dan, and I've seen it a couple of times, I always think the same thing. Okay, we see Starmer there making an enemy of the British people.
Yes.
We also see the real deep humanity in King Charles. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of King Charles. I adored the late Queen, but I said before, and you said, I was that we were proud when we saw that, and I was proud of the monarchy. I was proud of the response because it was a human response. It was a simple response, and it was, "How are you?" You know, it had humility, which was precisely the opposite.
Totally. And I hope for Charles, firstly, that it gives him a boost, because I wasn't heartened by what he said about his health. I do think he's suffering very badly. Not too bad. It's hardly a ringing endorsement, is it? So I hope he was boosted by that, but I hope that he also sees that actually he must be a unifying figure. Yes, he likes Keir Starmer a lot. Yes, they hang out a bit privately. He seems to be politically aligned, but actually he needs to be a unifying figure. He needs to keep away from politics and connect with the people in the way that he did today, because as you said, it was emotional and pitch perfect. But look, Angela Levin, stand by. But thank you very much to the brilliant Philip Kiszely, a great man, eminent cultural historian, of course, academic, author, political commentator, and senior fellow at the New Culture Forum. Hope you will come back very soon.
Thanks, Dan.
First, though, what is so important about being independent is that I'm only ever going to tell you about products that I use and truly believe in, and that I think can improve your life. So that's why I use Verso. As you may know, I've entered my 40s and I am much more conscious about staying healthy. I think you'll understand if you're in your 40s or 50s, age becomes a much bigger thing. So after a very stressful year, I've decided to think about ways that I can stay fit and as sharp as possible while still living a good life and being busy and engaged. So I'm doing lots of the right things, like exercising, trying to do my diet right. But scientists like David Sinclair have proven that we can now actually reverse aging with interventions that go beyond healthy habits. So for me, I wanted a product that I knew would enhance everything I was already doing, but one that was backed up by solid evidence. And that solid evidence is behind Cellbean by Verso, which has scientifically proven ingredients that fight the effects of aging by increasing NAD+ levels, which is the stuff that powers every cell in your body. I've been taking the product for a number of months now. I take it at the start of the day. I cannot tell you how transformative this product has been. Loads of things are so much easier for me. Fasting, energy, sleeping better. And apparently a lot of this is because Verso and Cellbean has blood sugar regulating effects which lead to fewer cravings. This has taken years off me. I would love you to experience the same thing. And the great news is that Verso publishes third-party testing from each batch produced, which guarantees you are getting exactly what you pay for. I'm very excited because Verso was the first ever sponsor of Outspoken, that if you head right now to bui.ver.so/outspoken, you will save 15% on your first order. You just need to make sure that you enter the coupon code OUTSPOKEN when you hit the checkout. I've put the link in our YouTube and Rumble description, but I will repeat, buy.ver.so/outspoken. Use the coupon code OUTSPOKEN and take years off your life. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please do subscribe if you want lots more clips and interviews like that. Plus, if you want to watch our totally uncensored after show, then visit www.outspoken.live.